Okay, so picking up there, Dumbledore goes on, and he says, you remember what Voldemort said? Isn't 7 the most powerfully magical number? Harry, he made 7 horcruxes? But they could be anywhere in the world. Dumbledore, yeah, I'm glad you finally appreciate, the difficulty of this task. He says, but no, Harry, not 7 horcruxes, 6. The 7th part of his soul remain inside his regenerated body. That 7th piece of soul will be the last that anybody wishing to kill Voldemort must attack. The piece that lives in his own body. Harry, well, okay, but how are we supposed to find the 6th? Dumbledore said, don't give up. You've already destroyed one. Tom Riddle's diary. And I've destroyed one. You have? Dumbledore says, yes, Harry. The ring. This is about page, 503 or so. 502. The ring. He says, had it not been for my own prodigious skill and Snape's timely action, when I returned to Hogwarts, desperately injured, I might not have lived to tell the tale. So he is willing to sacrifice his withered hand. Why? Because the ring is no longer a horcrux. So there's now 2. So Dumbledore says 4 horcruxes remain. Now, because we already know from book 7 what the other horcruxes are, let's look at this. So we have the diary, the ring. What are the other horcruxes? Helga Hufflepuff's cup, Rowena Ravenclaw's diadem. That gives us 4. What else are there? Nagini, that's 5. Voldemort is 6. What are we missing? And then there's Harry. Okay? So Dumbledore goes on and talks to Harry about the trophies that Voldemort collected. He said how these are obviously what must be the horcruxes. Oh, I know the one I forgot. Go back again. The diary, the ring, the locket that belonged to Slytherin, the cup of Helga Hufflepuff. Okay, so there's 5. The diadem. Okay, wait. Ring, diary, locket, diadem, cup. There's 5. What else remains? Nagini, Voldemort, and Harry. He actually made 8, including the one that still is in his own body. Notice, 8 is not a perfect number. Okay? So, they go on and talk about what all the horcruxes are. About page 505, 504 or so. Harry says, the locket, Hufflepuff's cup, Dumbledore, yes, very good. The remaining 2, if he created a total of 6, are more of a problem. He says he doesn't have anything of Gryffindor's. The only known relic of Gryffindor remains safe. Is there only one relic of Gryffindor? No, there are 2. There is Gryffindor's sword, and what else? The sorting hat. The sorting hat told us in the song, Godric Gryffindor whipped me off his head and they put some of their brains in me. Okay? Page 505 or so. Dumbledore says, I think I know what the 6th horcrux is. I wonder what you will say when I confess I've been curious for a while about the snake. You can use animals as horcruxes? Dumbledore says, well, really you shouldn't, but you can. And then he says, and I think he was intending to make his final horcrux with your death. With your death. But he failed. Okay? Dumbledore says. So, about page 503 7509, something like that. Harry says, their diary's gone, the ring's gone. The cup, the locket, and the snake are still intact. And you think that there might be a horcrux that was once Ravenclaws or Gryffindors? Dumbledore says yes. So Harry asks, okay, what happens when a horcrux is destroyed? Does he feel it? Dumbledore, I don't think so. I don't think so. Okay? They go on and they talk about Lucius Malfoy and what Malfoy has suffered as a result of the diary being destroyed. And Harry says, okay, so if all of the horcruxes are destroyed, then Voldemort can be killed? Yes, I think so. Bottom of about 508, 510, somewhere in there. Without his horcruxes, Voldemort will be a mortal man with a maimed and diminished soul. Never forget, though, that while his soul may be damaged beyond repair, his brain and his magical power remain intact. It will take uncommon skill and power to kill a wizard like Voldemort, even without his horcruxes. Uncommon skill. Now, I talked in class when we last met about when Harry uses Expelliarmus on Stan Shunpike when they leave Privet Drive, and Lupin says, Harry, come on! That was a very unusual move to use Expelliarmus and to not attack. And I talked about what that meant for Harry to use an unusual move, an uncommon move. It is Harry's refusal to attack, his refusal to actually harm others, that is so uncommon. People expect what? Self-defense. You respond with lethal violence. Harry never does. He never does. He responds in a way to disarm the other person so that the other person ultimately does not harm themselves. I think that's what Dumbledore means. That it will take uncommon skill and uncommon power. Harry, I haven't got uncommon skill and power. You have a power Voldemort does not know. Harry's like, oh no, not love again. Yes, Harry, about 5'11", you can't love. Which, given everything that has happened to you, is a great, remarkable thing. You're still too young to understand how unusual you are. Harry says, so, when the prophecy talks about my having a power that the Dark Lord knows not, it just means love? Yes, just love. Okay? Voldemort singled you out as the person who would be most dangerous to them. Harry says, it doesn't matter, I've still got to kill him. Dumbledore, you're setting too much store by the prophecy. But Harry's like, but the prophecy means, Dumbledore. He interrupts. If Voldemort had never heard of the prophecy, would it have been fulfilled? Would it have meant anything? Of course not. He's trying to get Harry to think, to realize, the prophecy does not bind him to anything. But last year you said one of us would have to kill the other. Harry, only because Voldemort made a grave error. Only because Voldemort acted on the part of the prophecy he heard did he go after Harry Potter. If Voldemort had not acted, he would not have marked the one who would have the skill and the power to oppose him. He chose the one. Is Harry the chosen one? Yes, simply because Voldemort chose him. That's why Dumbledore goes on and says, if Voldemort had not forced your mother to die for you, would he have given you a magical protection he could not penetrate? Of course not. Don't you see? Voldemort himself created his worst enemy, just as tyrants everywhere do. Okay? By attempting to kill you, Voldemort himself singled out the remarkable person who sits here in front of me and gave him the tools for the job. By singling you out, Voldemort made you the one who could defeat him. In other words. Aren't you surprised, Harry, that despite your privileged insight into Voldemort's world, you've never been seduced by the dark arts? Never even for a second shown the slightest desire to become one of his followers? Harry's like, yuck, of course I haven't. Why? Because of your ability to love. It's because of Harry's ability to love that he's never been tempted by the dark arts. The dark arts are foreign to the notion of love. He says, your ability to love was the only thing that protects you from Voldemort, Harry. Dumbledore says, bottom of, or somewhere about page 512, the only protection, hold on a second, the only protection that can possibly work against the lure of power like Voldemort's is love. In spite of all the temptation you have endured, all the suffering, you remain pure of heart, just as pure as you were at the age of 11. How do we know? Look at his Polyjuice potion. It's shining gold. Okay? He says, what did you see when you looked into the mirror, Harry? You did not see immortality or riches. Have you any idea how few wizards could have seen what you saw in that mirror? It showed you thwarting Voldemort. But now Voldemort is aware of that. He can't possess you. He doesn't understand why. But he never paused to understand the incomparable power of a soul that is untarnished and whole. Harry is complete. Harry, but it comes down to the same thing. I've still got to try and kill him. Dumbledore is like rapping Harry on the head. Got it? Of course you've got to. But not because of the prophecy. Harry, why would you want to try to stop Voldemort? Out of love. Imagine that you'd never heard that prophecy. How would you feel about Voldemort? Harry. Notice, he thinks about Voldemort. And Harry thinks of his mother, and his father, and of Sirius, and of Cedric Diggory. And he thinks of all the terrible things Voldemort had done. And what happens? A flame, we're told, seemed to leap inside his chest, searing his throat. What's the flame? It's the ardor of love. Harry thinks it's not right that my mom and my dad and Sirius and Cedric should have died. It's not right that Frank Bryce and Bertha Jorkins should have died. Somebody's got to stop him. Harry is willing to sacrifice himself for the good of others. Christ says, greater love hath no one than this, than that he's willing to lay his life down for his friends. Harry, I'd want him finished, and I'd want to do it. Dumbledore, you see, the prophecy has nothing to do with this. The prophecy caused Voldemort, however, to mark you as his. You would still want to do this. What does the prophecy mean? The prophecy means Voldemort gave you the means to do it. You can choose your way. You can turn your back on the prophecy. But Voldemort still believes in it. So Harry says, so that's what it means. One of us is going to end up killing the other. And suddenly Harry finally understands completely what it means that Dumbledore is saying. Okay? And I'll stop there and I'll pick up for the next lecture at that point and we'll finish the book.